Prize out of 1,500 entrants, and also in 2016 she won the International Provost Prize for her first novel, and her latest novel is called Heart of Glass. Now, I do like a novel that's named after a nice disco dancing tune, because I'm just like Theresa May. I love a boogie, you know, I love a boogie, and it reminds me of when those young ladies, Salt and Pepper, came into my library. Terribly badly behaved young women. They were making far too much noise, and I had to say, Salt and Pepper, shush it! Shush it good! Shush it real good! Anyway, I'm going off the point there. And anyway, yes, so our next reader is Ivy Niao. Please welcome her to the stage.
Good evening, Brixton. Thank you very much for welcoming me back to Brixton Book Jam. Tonight I'm going to talk about my latest novel, Heart of Glass, which is a crime noir set in Chicago and Macau in the 1980s. It is about a Chinese girl called Lian, an immigrant in Chicago, and it raises the themes of youth, greed, impulse, and dumbness. So, with her accomplice, who is this white trash older lady called Dallas, they rob rich guys. And one day she's offered a job abroad in Macau. And just remember, she never had a job before, let alone a job abroad. So we follow her adventures as she leaves the home country and experiences her new culture, which is the Macanese culture. So the section I'm going to be reading is about her meeting Dallas. So before I start, I just want to apologize to anybody who is American of Chinese origin or American of white trash origin, because I'm going to be reading in the characters' own voices. I met Dallas 6 years ago in the summer of '74, and that was when things were beginning to look up for me. She saved me from being a toothless hobo. I was 17. My father and my stepmom, Cheryl Ann, threw me out. By then, I'd already got all the education I needed. I'd gone to a proper Catholic school, majoring in music, Catholic to please my stepmom, and music to please my mom. I dropped out of high school altogether. I emptied Cheryl Ann's purse when she wasn't looking, and boy, she never looked. And I got $140. I packed up all I could fit into 2 rucksacks, and I grabbed my acoustic guitar. I could name every chord that ever was and play any tune by ear. I could pick up any instrument and pretty much work out how to play it in an hour. But I had not worked a day in my life before. I hadn't a clue even how to work. I most definitely have been on the streets had I not met Dallas. I'd already spent the first night in some dump for which I had to part with some of my cash. Day 2 of leaving home, I was pounding the sidewalks west of Chinatown at West Mac and South Canal Street, and knocking on doors, begging for anything that anyone could give me. A job, food, music, tapes, anything. I stayed close to Chinatown because I reminded myself, firstly, I was an immigrant. Secondly, I was Chinese. Chinese people stay close to Chinatown to meet other Chinese people. That was what you're supposed to do. And if that failed, there were also Irish, Jewish, Lithuanian, Italian, Greek, Mexican, and other emigres in Chinatown. Dallas was in a fluffy dressing gown and had just stepped out for a smoke from an artist studio in West 34th, real close to the railway line. She offered me a cigarette, but I declined. She then knew I wasn't in for the short term. "What do you want, kid?" she said, blowing smoke in my face. She was a striking broad, all hair, lashes, and lips. Even had a beauty spot right where it should be. I'm real good at work, I said. I can do anything. Except that it sounded more like a question to myself. Even play guitar, I added with a triumphant flourish that was way uncool and childish. Anything, she said. Huh. The thought of my desperation made her smile. She was like somebody who would play a bimbo in a caper film as a decoy for the baddies. I never saw how old she was, but she must have seen just how young I was. My appearance must have been pleasing to her. Your luck's in, she said. You can move in with me. But in exchange, I had to work with her. I agreed to anything. Didn't care enough. I was only 17, but I just got a job the day after I left home. My mom never had such luck. I miss my mom so much. It wasn't her fault. She got depressed and couldn't handle us. Life in the States, the food, daddy's drinking, and the worst of all, winters. It was a lot. She was an immigrant with high expectations and high hopes. They all had. Well, they all started off that way anyway. She was lonely. She got sick with no one to care for her. Couldn't even call home as the international calls to Singapore cost more than $100 each time. $2 per minute. More if you went through an operator. Each minute to speak to someone back home was like a fleck of gold dust. Now Dallas fed and clothed me. She was more a mother than a sister or a friend. She totally got it. When I spent evenings telling her about my mom, she wept. Dallas said she was a mom once. It was sad. She couldn't speak about it. Not then, maybe another time. But she never wept long, and she was vain, and she didn't want to ruin her perfect makeup. And crying was the daddy of all wrinkles, she said. She always called me kid, girl, sweetheart. She was so happy to see me. No one had ever been happy to see me. Cheryl Ann didn't speak to me, and if she did, she said, scram. Daddy went along with her and said nothing. When Della said, good morning, did you sleep well, kid? I'm so happy to see you. Every day, I knew I owed her big time. She loved me, and I her. Thank you very much.